see you, and you are beautiful. So we're having an exciting moment coming up. Please prepare yourselves. Dr. Michelle Flamme is going to be presenting some work for you. Michelle is an Afro-Indian, NDN, woman who grew up in Coast Salish territory. She's an educator and a social justice advocate, and she has a strong interest in performance. She's been writing plays and performing for decades. She completed her doctoral work at UBC, and she's been teaching Canadian literature and Indigenous drama at SFU, UBC, and the University of the Fraser Valley for also decades. You will see she's a very accomplished thinker and performer with these decades. Her first book, SOMA Text, examines representations of racial. The words don't fit on my tongue. Is that what the nuance is out there? You know the one that I mean, the Vancouver in front of the library? So let me try this word again. Racial. Racial hybridity is part of what her work examines in contemporary Canadian literature and drama. Her current book, this must be the second book, is an anthology of contemporary Canadian plays featuring racial hybridity. If you would please welcome Dr. Michelle Flamme.
Wow, Vanessa, that was a nice warm welcome. I think probably 25 years we've been doing warrior work, social justice work. So decades, yes. Very nice to be here. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge the honored guests, the knowledge keepers and elders present. And I wish to pay my deep respect to the Hapa-palooza award recipients who you will meet tonight. I have to thank this amazing Hapa-palooza crew and volunteers. I don't know how they managed to pull this off year after year after year. It's amazing. I grew up here in traditional unceded Coast Salish territory, and I've recently become a grandmother. So I'm really thinking deeply about where we have been and where we are going. And when I see these young, delightful, energetic people, I'm reminded that it took me a long time to see people who recognize mixedness in this 604 province. So that's really very exciting for me. SOMA Text, yes, came out of this research that I was doing looking at representations of mixedness, and I realized I was always referring to racially hybrid subjectivity from this very distant, abstract place. So after I finished the manuscript, I gave myself the luxury of dropping into a more creative engagement with the topic. And SOMA Text is the performance piece that was birthed from that. I fortunately presented at the University of Southern California in Los Angeles in February. There's a critical mixed race studies conference that happens every couple of years. It's phenomenal. Again, you know, walking into a room and seeing a number of researchers and scholars and activists and artists who are all engaged in some really deep way with the topic. I presented it and I got really excited at that moment, and this is the first time I'm actually delivering it here in home territory, so that feels really good. I penned this before people began .comming their ancestry on cotton swabs. I penned this before America was Obama-fied, and I penned this before our dear Queen of England almost spilled her tea thinking about Meghan Markle as a family member. So please keep that in mind. Now, how the hell could I have known that I would be born into a script as a type, and a tragic type at that? That's me, my capital B birthright, typecast as the tragic mulatto, the hapless Hapa, or the horrifyingly complex half-breed. Take your pick. Before I even met and engaged with my own skin, it was mine in a part
I did not audition for. In fact, I can track a lifelong awareness of people's gaze and the responses to the thing that I was supposed to signify, long before I could untangle any potential meaning. A walking sandwich board for interracial sex. Sure, now half a century later, there's lots of folks mixing and mingling, but in my lifetime, in my little suburban community in the 604 province, I was a real oddity. It took me 25 years to meet another person who I recognized. We stood in awe and stared, then gently but unreservedly touched each other's hair and just knew. We spoke at length, a mile a minute, about everything from hair products to our search for the right foundation, which was not an easy breezy cover girl task for us, because our tones changed from a deep caramel in summer to a gray hue in the dead of winter. We laughed hard and made jokes about guys that were fixated on our butts before Beyonce ever claimed them as bootylicious. We reveled and cried and laughed and wrote and performed in small, intimate gallery spaces, a play that seemed to sum it all up. White, dark, and bittersweet. That was 1994. Then two small words bit into my ears. Tragic mulatto. What is this type I was supposed to be, and who wrote this part? I gobbled up all of the literature and film I could find to discover what this type was supposed to do, say, think, feel, be, and you know, the stockpile of discerning gazes and attraction, repulsion, interactions suddenly started to make a kind of sense. I've had the benign, overdetermined question, hey, what's your background? And I've had the much more succinct, you Indian? There was much more than a verb missing there. And I've had, I never even suspected you were black. For years I wondered about that comment. Suspected had a tone of regret for not having been vigilant. Were made it seem like a passing phase, which it certainly was not. This TM script has also had its ironic moments. Once a biochemist went to great lengths to list the benefits of genetic mixing as part of his come-on. It doubled as a brief précis of his research as a biochemist at UBC. I wondered at first why we were talking about animal husbandry and the creation of black tulips in a nightclub, until I noticed his eyes furtively reading the signs of this current admixture as he discussed with great authority and gusto his views of the most recent iteration of this particular blend of genes. I've been fragmented many times by the racialized gaze that asks the questions for the onlooker. Saves a person from speaking, I guess. One guy said, out of 25% black, what was the other 75%, I wondered, in his eyes? One gal wanted to know if I was half native. What was the other half, I wondered, in her eyes? Perhaps it didn't matter. All she wanted to know was there identified, bona fide, indigenous blood flowing through my veins? No, wait, that's African American, all of that blood counting. I mean, how do you measure a drop of Indian blood? The head of a pin or a Barbie doll eyedropper? I mean, really? The gaze can be as complex or as simple as the SOMA text itself. Multiple character-driven narratives, piece of cake. Either or questions just don't seem to have any room in my reality. It's got me theorizing all kinds of new ideologies about racial drag and other aesthetic and performative considerations linked to this special complex identity. Lateral thinking is a snap. Maybe, just maybe, living in this hybridized space makes us predisposed to bisexuality. I don't know, it's just a theory. So anyway, after that first mirror phase with the holy hybrid, a lot of time passed where images of me were just missing. You can only look to your own family albums for so long for these things. Cher was plaintively sitting astride a pony, half-breed, it's all I ever heard. And Ugly Betty had not been created, Tyra Banks was still a toddler, Beyonce had not been deemed the most beautiful woman in the world. So I searched. There he was. I met my self-proclaimed blue-eyed redneck black man, and we fell instantly in love. The attraction, I suppose one might say a kind of narcissistic mirroring, an endless sea of caramel. No need to ask each other about hybridity, we simply read the signs. When he washed my hair or I shaved his head, we just knew. Late nights reveling in this endless sea of caramel that was us, binding us at the seams, despite our otherwise utterly incompatible dynamic. I talk with my monoracial friends about this. I ask them, I say, how far and how long did you wait to see a mirror that was your brother, your sister, your cousin? Did you have to wait days, years, decades before that instant moment? One, as if all of the elements that go into your genetic coding are read and appreciated by a mirror who gazes back at you and you are truly seen. So after that intense engagement with the holy hybrid who was deliciously caramel and yet utterly incompatible, swimming with me in that endless sea of caramel, my heart needed more. I want every groovy gal, book, film, ad, anything that reflected another holy hybrid. They're buffers against the agonizingly reductive questions that are stimulated by the onlookers' need to know who and what and where and when and why, and most importantly, which genitals were of color. And are they still together? In short, did integration work? So these days, I'm inclined to say, yes indeed, I am a goddamn 24/7 racial drag show, a series of SOMA textual rituals, the whole lot, holla now, the holy hybrid card-carrying member of the whole-blooded half-breeds, and the poster child for the hybridity revolution. A performative history of contact signaled and embodied to others. Yes, a taboo sneaks out from behind an illicit affair. Shh, indelibly etched on my skin. A hieroglyphic of what is possibly framed as your greatest fantasy and your worst nightmare. Some say the SOMA text is an aberration of purity, a third space signifier. All the while they have been musing, I search for the caramel that is my skin, found on the ones with a knowing look. I search for the caramel that is my skin with a transcoded gaze, wired to detect coyote, legba, trickster borderlines, blurred combinations, even alchemy, fusion, conflation, an invisible hyphen that accommodates bloodlines and sometimes is still your greatest fantasy and your worst fear. Some call it racial amalgamation, the duality of yin and yang, unity, continuity, or even a sign of the post-race future. Or so they claim. All hail those holy hybrids who have walked before me in their unabashed fullness, the half-bloods found in the literary history serving a matrix of desires and repulsion. Tay John, Louis Riel, Pocahontas, Malinche, La Chegada, Fred Waugh, half-breed Maria Campbell, I know April Raintree, Pauline Johnson. I know what you have done. I walk where you strode onto stage, claiming both Victorian poetess and Mohawk warrior self, defying both social conventions and binaries. Yes, I claim this literary history for my own, found squished in the pages of diaries and poems and plays and novels, announcing presence and untangling the corporeal complexity of this Montanian mobile paradoxical space. shouting through the bindings of the texts. Yes, I am a child of the lovings made manifest, colonizer and colonized in a single cell. Whapping those swinging cafe doors and playing havoc to create all those Wasian noisy hyphens, and bound up in George Eliot Clark's zebra poetics, boundary-busting, shape-shifting me. Hey folks, this sign is nothing more than a hint of complexity, the lemon zest of cross-raciality, the malleable structure of somebody's version of synthesis, and my mom's there, so she knows. 7 generations of ancestors on both parents' sides lining up in the spirit world, having some tea in Bannock and deciding at that very moment to send down the blue dot that was and is the complex and unique me. Woo woo! Post-colonial contact junction, I am the contact zone, the crossroads, full-blooded and half-bred forum for meditation, ambiguously hybrid body. I search for the caramel that is my skin. I search for the caramel that is my skin. I search for the caramel that is my skin. Aha! You there! I see you seeing me with your full-blooded and half-bred Hapa-fied SOMA text. Holy hybrid, here I am, I say. And while there's still room and permission to do so, and the semiotics of this gaze, of this dance, belonging to this set of drag rituals has yet to be recorded in full, read me, because I am right here reading all of you. Because I search for the caramel that is my skin. I search for the caramel that is my skin. I search for the caramel that is my skin. SOMA text.
Dr. Michelle Flamme, ladies and gentlemen. I wouldn't say tragic, I would say magic. Nice work, nice work.